You probably think low intelligence looks like bad grades or silly mistakes, but psychologists say it's far more subtle. The truth about your brain's real power is hidden in the small, invisible habits you repeat every single day. And the scariest part, these habits don't just make you seem less intelligent, they actively train your brain to become that way over time. Let's start with a sneaky one: magical thinking. You know, wearing that same lucky outfit to every important meeting, avoiding cracks on the sidewalk, or believing a certain color brings you success. It seems harmless, maybe even a little funny, but psychology has a name for it. It's what happens when your brain mistakes a simple coincidence for a cause and effect relationship. Maybe one day you wore those socks and something amazing happened. Boom, your brain now links the two forever. The real danger here, you're outsourcing your logic to superstition. A smart mind pauses and asks, where's the actual evidence for this? A brain taking shortcuts skips that question entirely and builds entire rituals out of thin air. Next up, chronic sleep neglect. You tell yourself you're totally fine on just 4 hours of sleep. You stay up late, mindlessly scrolling, maybe even bragging about your grind culture hustle, only to wake up feeling like a zombie. But here's the hard truth. Sleep loss absolutely destroys your focus, your memory, and your ability to make good decisions. After just a single sleepless night, your brain performs as if it's drunk. Truly intelligent people protect their rest like it's gold, because they understand it's their mind's greatest weapon. Neglecting sleep isn't a sign of strength, it's straight-up self-sabotage. Here's another one: avoiding time alone. Some people panic the moment it gets quiet. No music, no podcast, no background chatter, and they instantly reach for their phone like it's a lifeline. This constant, desperate need for distraction often hides weak mental processing. Smart minds use solitude to their advantage, to reflect, to plan, and to solve complex problems. Minds that are less developed run from silence, because silence forces them to face their own thoughts. If you can't sit by yourself for 10 minutes without needing some kind of stimulation, that's not you being social, that's you avoiding yourself. And what about living on small talk? We all know someone who can talk for hours, but says absolutely nothing of substance. The weather, the traffic, a few recycled jokes, but never anything real. Small talk is fine as a social warm-up, but when it's the only tool in your conversational toolbox, it signals a deeper lack of curiosity. Psychologists call this a low need for cognition, basically not enjoying the act of deep thinking. Intelligent people crave conversations about big ideas, not just conversational filler. Then there's confidence without content. We've all seen this person, the loudest one in the room, confidently explaining things they don't remotely understand, acting like an expert without any real substance. This is a classic example of the Dunning-Kruger effect, the psychological principle where people who know the least often think they know the most. Real intelligence looks completely different. It has the humility to say, I don't know the answer to that, teach me. Fake intelligence hides behind volume and ego, hoping no one calls its bluff. How about blindly following instructions? Some people treat every rule like it's sacred. If a manual says to do something that makes no sense, they'll still try it. If a recipe says to bake for 20 minutes, but the food is clearly still raw, they'll serve it anyway. That isn't discipline, it's mental laziness. Smarter people have the critical thinking skills to adjust when reality doesn't match the plan. Lower intelligence just follows the instructions straight off a cliff. Now for a big one: falling for conspiracies and superstitions. Flat Earth, microchips and vaccines, blaming Mercury being in retrograde for a bad week. Conspiracies feel exciting because they turn chaotic, random events into a simple story with good guys and bad guys. But that's just your brain taking a lazy shortcut. It prefers a dramatic narrative over dry, hard data. Smart minds verify information. They check sources. Naive minds just accept the first explanation that feels interesting or confirms what they already believe. The danger is that superstitions stop you from identifying and solving the real problems in your life. Let's talk about rigid thinking. You know the type. That's how we've always done it. These are the people who reject new methods, new ideas, and new tools, not because the new ways are wrong, but simply because they're different. Psychologists call this mental inflexibility, the inability to adapt when the world around you changes. Smart people evolve with the times. Rigid thinkers get stuck in the past. And life has a way of punishing those who refuse to move. And of course, the trap of instant gratification. Why wait for a reward when you can scroll, snack, or swipe right now? This constant stream of instant rewards teaches your brain to avoid effort and completely kills your patience. The famous marshmallow test proved this decades ago. Kids who could delay gratification and wait for a bigger reward struggled later in life with their finances, relationships, and their ability to focus. Intelligent people are willing to tolerate short-term discomfort for long-term growth. Lower intelligence grabs every quick fix it can find and calls that living. Consider poor listening habits. Some people don't actually listen in a conversation. They just wait for their turn to talk. They interrupt, nod along without hearing a word, or just mentally check out. But active listening is a powerful form of intelligence. It forces your brain to absorb new perspectives and process complex information in real time. Poor listeners often lack fundamental comprehension skills. They can't follow a deep or nuanced argument, so they just tune out. Smart minds understand they can learn something from anyone. Closed minds think they already know everything there is to know. This leads directly to dismissing new ideas. That's a dumb idea. That'll never work. You've heard it before, that knee-jerk reflex rejection of anything unfamiliar. That's not critical thinking. That's intellectual laziness. Intelligent people question, explore, and analyze an idea. Before they decide what they think of it. Low intelligence rejects first and, if they're lucky, thinks later. What about doom scrolling and entertainment addiction? Look, relaxing with a show or scrolling social media for a few minutes isn't the problem. The problem is when you lose hours to it every single day. This constant passive consumption rewires your brain for a short attention span and cheap, easy dopamine hits. Smart people find a healthy balance between entertainment and personal growth. Lower intelligence sinks into an endless cycle of consumption, mistaking distraction for a fulfilling life. Then you have those who blindly follow trends. Every week, it's a new identity, new brands to wear, new aesthetics to copy, new slang to use, one trend after another. This isn't creativity, it's imitation. Humans are wired to copy others to feel safe and part of the group. But true intelligence steps back and asks, do I even like this? Does this align with who I am? If your entire personality shifts with every passing trend, that's not self-expression. That's a sign of emptiness. Finally, gaming without growth. We all know someone who plays the same video game every single night, but never actually gets any better. They put in thousands of hours, but make no real progress. The problem isn't the game, it's the complete lack of reflection. Smart players analyze their mistakes, adapt their strategies, and consciously work to improve. Low intelligence just repeats the same mistakes endlessly and blames the game, the controller, or other players. Time spent on an activity doesn't change. Self-awareness does. So here's the final truth. Low intelligence isn't about being born smart or not. It's about the small, invisible habits you choose to repeat every single day. If you keep these habits, your brain will slowly but surely lock itself into a state of mediocrity. But if you decide to break them, your clarity, your confidence, and your entire mindset will begin to rise. Most people who hear this will nod and then scroll right back into the same old routines that are keeping them average. But if you someone who actually wants to rewire your brain to truly understand how psychology shapes every single part of your life, then subscribe to this channel, because here we break down the raw truths that no one else tells you, but that everyone needs to know. Thanks for watching.